I'm Laura Froelich with Snohomish County Surface Water Management, and I will be moderating the session today. Digital engagement can translate into stewardship. And we're lucky to have Mary Rabourn with King County Stormwater Services section giving this presentation. So if you could all just please type your questions into the Q&A chat box, and then we will have time to answer those questions following Mary's presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and let Mary take over.
Thank you, Laura. Thanks everyone for being interested in this topic. I want to cover what happened last fall with the digital engagement that we did around Puget Sound Starts Here as an example of things to think about if you're going to invest in really trying to boost your stewardship engagement during this time of COVID. So the answer to this is yes, digital engagement could translate into stewardship if we tweaked a few things. So you'll hear what we've learned from that campaign and some of the smart online tactics to consider. And we did an investment across the Puget Sound region where we used some grant money, $20,000, and we also were able to raise $40,000 from our collaborative partners in the Storm Network to do a regional digital advertising buy. So I'm going to focus on the role of websites, social media, and how you can combine the two to get the most out of your outreach while we are sitting at home doing it remotely. And Storm is a collaborative of Western Washington stormwater managers that focus on and share education and outreach resources and projects. And we use a social marketing framework to design really effective evaluated programs. And in 2020, with everything that was happening, we shifted Puget Sound Starts Here month from May to September. And we decided to kind of recycle a lot of our advertising creative that we already had. Really, people did not have the energy and wherewithal to come up with new campaigns. So we tested some of the existing materials that we had for example, Facebook ads. And we decided to also run videos that we had created the year before for Puget Sound Starts Here, which were really cute stop action videos that we happened to have translated also into Spanish, Korean, Vietnamese, and I think that's it. And also English, of course. So the key points to what we did is we wanted to test and reach overburdened communities that are required in the municipal NPDES permit for education and outreach. And we also wanted to respond to Washington State's Stay Home, Stay Healthy, extremely limited outreach, especially to communities of color, low income, and non-English speaking. And one tiny factor that came into play too was that it turned out to be a slightly more expensive media buy period because of the contentious elections happening at that time, but it was still very doable. So this homepage that you see here, Puget Sound Starts Here, is designed for our West Side communities to share that outreach for awareness. So that's what we did. It was an awareness campaign. Now, first of all, I want to say a huge thank you to Rich Marketing. They have been incredibly helpful, helping us with the highly technical side of the digital advertising market. I'm not even going to go into that approach and campaign because frankly, I'd probably mangle it, but it is a little bit more complicated than just doing a social media buy on Facebook. So it's very helpful to have professionals that can really help target exactly who you would like to reach. But an awareness campaign can become a stewardship campaign if we tweaked our approaches next time, and you can learn from them as well. So when we went into this, we asked Rich Marketing, we said, all right, we want to really focus on these audiences, adults 18 to 64, 50-50 male, female, up to 50% low income, and in the languages, English, Spanish, Korean, and Vietnamese that we had TV spots for. But also we wanted to see how effective we could be in reaching those overburdened communities as defined by Washington State Department of Ecology. So we also included parameters such as limited English, no high school diploma, people of color or ethnic identity, people living in poverty, and folks facing certain types of income and expense issues like transportation, affordable housing, unemployment. When you do that, and this is a note, when you specify so many audiences, your cost per click will go up versus going for a broad, we'll do all these zip codes in these languages during this period. If you kept it down to 3 parameters, your costs are going to be lower. That's just something we learned. So we geo-targeted, meaning geographically defined, the Puget Sound region. We included and made sure we had jurisdictions that donated cash. Their zip codes were included as well for their reporting. And then we also really looked at what were going to be our key things that we're going to evaluate. Media impressions for reach, video completions for awareness, and then website traffic to the Puget Sound Starts Here website, just so we can kind of see what's happening when people go to the website. And this particular image, this is an example of the social media advertising we used and recycled. And this one was the most popular, as it turned out. There's one that features a whale and one with I don't even remember now. I want to say a penguin, but that's not right. Anyway, so we had other sea creatures, an otter. You'd think the otter would have won, but no, it was the octopus. Oops, sorry. So we shared messages through these videos in different languages that really featured and talked to, we hope, dog owners, like this ad about pet waste, gardening interests to reduce pesticides and use compost, and auto maintenance interests to drive folks to the Don't Trip and Drive site. Now, what we heard after the fact and scratched our head about a bit and then realized it's so obvious, a lot of our folks said, wow, I never did see all those digital ads that we were running. Why? They were running in my zip code, but I just didn't spot them. Well, that's because we did not do the broad targeting of anybody in Puget Sound area if they speak English, Vietnamese, Spanish, and Korean, etc. So because we had called out these specific audiences within a specific income, etc., most of our folks, you have a college education, you're probably off the list. If you are, middle to higher income, might be off the list. So it was a great reminder and example that when we do outreach to communities that are not our mainstream white middle-class enviro audiences, our managers and even ourselves will not see or experience those ads. Keep that in mind. It was a good reminder. So with the collaborative, we were able to purchase and effectively generate 11 million media impressions. So that means when somebody's bringing up their Hulu TV and they see the ad, that counts as an impression. Or they go to Facebook and the ad is running the sidebar, that's an impression on their page. We did it within 1 month's time frame in September, and we ended up sending almost 15,000 people to the Puget Sound Starts Here website. And this was the most striking part of this campaign, I thought. The video completion rate, so we had a 30-second video, so that means people watch it from beginning to end, was over 70%. And that is pretty dang good. The benchmark, the standard is for 30-second ads is about 60 to 65%. And the number of clicks on the website, we could see how people were behaving. And they came for awareness, like, what is this Puget Sound Starts Here thing? But they were poking around and wanted to learn more. So that indicates that people are ready to take action. And we'll talk about that in a second. So again, if we keep it big and general, the cost per click is lower. You're going to scoop up more audiences, and it may be more cost effective to reach folks. But this was a fantastic learning experience. So the digital video. So this back to this video completion rate. What was also particularly striking, and again, talks about, I think it really signifies the hunger that a lot of our communities of color and different languages that we have not been doing outreach to have a high interest in a lot of these topics. And we're not providing that information or doing as active an outreach to those folks as we could be. So the top performing video completion rate was Vietnamese. It was at 79%, which is practically stratospheric for this kind of marketing. And then that was followed by Korean at 70%, English was 69%, and Spanish was 60%. So remember, the benchmark or the standard expectation is 60 to 65%. It's pretty good. So Spanish and English, Spanish was a little lower, but really spectacular for Vietnamese and Korean. And the Vietnamese information is consistent with anecdotal information I am hearing from the Vietnamese Health Board in having a high interest in environmental topics. So it's something to keep in mind. And when we did do the Spanish display, when we ran the videos on a Spanish language Verde page that we have in Facebook, we did have almost twice as many click-throughs on our social media advertising, the octopus, for example, than we did in the English. And we just think that that is related to, it's in language on an in language site, and there's going to be more engagement on that. And the octopus was particularly popular, we think, because that might have been related to the announcement of the Kraken for our soccer team in the Seattle area. And just in general, this just shows you the audience ages have stayed fairly consistent. We got a little bump in younger folks, and in general though, pretty great that the folks that are interested are still interested. But this is the part that's pretty astounding. So once we ran this campaign, and I'm sorry, this increase in users. So the blue is during the campaign, and the orange is right before the campaign. So you can see we had over a 2,000% increase in users on the website. And needless to say, that's a decent number. And users are unique visitors to your website. So this is the first time, or maybe they just came once, but that's a very respectable number. And then we also had, and what was really fascinating is we also had a 100% increase in website users after the media campaign ended. So when you do a big investment, you get a big whoosh of folks coming and poking around and going, what's this about? And once they find out about it, they're like, well, I want to go back there and take a look. It might be something my family could use or I'm interested in. And of that new 100%, about 93% of them were brand new visitors. So here, let me give you an idea here. And I can't seem to get rid of this thing. Anyway, so this gives you an idea. This is these numbers. So in August, the Facebook engagements and reach were in the low 200s to 600s. And then in September, it zoomed to over 33,000. That gives you an idea what an investment in social media advertising can do to the traffic on your page. But what was also really interesting is that after the campaign ended in October, these are the numbers for October, it was still strong at about over 30,000 engagements, and then slowly over the month, and by the end of the month had tapered back to a pretty quiet, almost single digits. So that's something to contemplate if you're going to do year-long engagement. Do you want to do once a year, big boost, lots of traffic, or kind of go for a rhythm over the year? The other piece that we learned is that when we had folks coming to the website, we had a very high number of sessions. Now, Google Analytics defines sessions as every time someone visits your website, and spends time there and is looking around and loading pages. So we had a very high initial number of sessions. It dropped off afterward. And so again, that tells you if you want folks to come back to your page or stay on your page, refreshing that initial experience might be something to consider, especially seasonally with a lot of our topics. So there you go. You can see that it started out pretty high, then drops off. And same thing, what was really striking as well is how many folks wanted to engage with the events. That was the top increase in interest, and is really a key takeaway. People are looking for actual events to get engaged. There you go. Now, when they come to the main page, there are two ways to spot events. We have a tiny part in the upper header navigation bar, but we've included it on the home page so they can spot it as well. And that's, again, trying to make that visible and fresh for your users. And we know now that there's a high interest in pets and dogs, gardening and vehicle maintenance. So how can we pair that interest and environmental messaging with stewardship? One, you as cities or nonprofits can use the power of the Puget Sound Starts Here webpage and Facebook page. The Facebook page has, I think we're at over 11,000 followers now. So placing a Facebook announcement or event using something like the Puget Sound Starts Here social media automatically will boost your personal posts at your city or nonprofit. We will get, a slow day is like a couple hundred folks interested. A really interesting topic gets well over 1,200 folks, looking, reading, commenting. So if you want to get your local stewardship event spread throughout Puget Sound, this is a way to do this without, if you don't have the money or the time, and share it through both the events page and also through Puget Sound Starts Here Facebook, or a similar type of Facebook approach. You may have one in your region that is that operates in the same way. And then also, when you're doing that, it's very helpful to cross tag putting the @Puget Sound Starts Here. That lets Puget Sound Starts Here know that they've been called out and they look and may want to share your post on their Facebook page. Now, this is a very underutilized tactic I've found with cities and counties. But this is a great way to target what we now call micro influencers. So for example, one year I did Pugs for Puget Sound Starts Here. And I researched different dog groups, Pug Rescue, American Kennel Society in Seattle. And I reached out to them by tagging them with the @ and had really great response with them sharing this, cute post about Pugs for Puget Sound. So thinking strategically, the @ can really help. You're sitting in your office with your Facebook followers, but how can you reach out to those groups that can really expand people that may be interested in your events and topics? And then reuse your content. Oops, sorry. Hold on a second. There we go. Reuse your content. So pretty much most of our topics go on an annual cycle. We have gardening in the spring and fall, and a little bit water conservation in the summer. We have floods and storms during the winter. Those messages can be recycled and refreshed. And I like to keep them, for example, in a blog post because I can go back historically and find it and pull out the chunks of information that go into a social media post. So that, yes, there might be a bit of effort at the beginning, but I'm hoping that over time, these messages are easier and we can just refresh and reshare. And then really, it's great to start with what is your call to action? We found that in this, oh gosh, what happened here? Oh, You have to sneak peek there. Okay, what is your call to action? Often we say, hey, this is a great idea to do this for the environment, but we leave out the how, or we're going to do it at this time. Join us in a socially distanced, safe way. So what is it you would like folks to take on as a local stewardship effort and action? It could be something that they're just doing at home. It could be something that they're helping in the region. Thinking ahead and using that. And the call to action, having those specific links that you want to use and how you might want to track those if that's something you want to do. It's handy to use bit.ly as a way to track the outcomes of your links. Did people click on them? What did they do? There could be you're driving them to a key web page where your information is located. So thinking ahead, where do I want those folks to land if I want them to do a stewardship activity? And is it easy for them to get there? If you do not have control of your website, as many folks don't, that's where a blog comes in handy, because you can create what looks like temporary information, but a way to take people to the information specific to that event that you want to take them to. And then, is it something like a checklist or a do-it-yourself info or a top 10 list? Anything downloadable is also really great to have as an action item. And free resources, always great. And you can track the number of downloads as well and get a feel for how popular your content was and are people getting out there and trying it. So one quick example, and we heard a little bit about this, a little bit from Aaron Hussman at City of Kirkland about pet waste, but he just did a quick little informational push, put $50 into his Facebook advertising and ran it for 5 days. And it reached about 5,400 folks and had about 210 link clicks. And of those clicks, 14 people took this tree planting course that they had hoped to advertise. Now, using my very special math, if you had tied this to the Puget Sound Starts Here campaign, let's say it had run at that time, with its 33,000 Facebook reach at the height of the campaign, you would have reached, oh, let's just say, and as a low estimate, 86 people. Okay, that sounds small. Taking the, finding and taking the tree planting course. But in the social marketing world, we like to think of social diffusion. So those 86 people would have talked to 3 of their pals about this amazing tree planting course by Kirkland. And that would have expanded the reach then to 256 new people finding out that Kirkland offers tree planting courses. Who knew? And also a little bit about Puget Sound Starts Here. And that is all without artificial intelligence. I'm not going to cover that today, but that is definitely part of this new online world and digital tracking and the way to get information to certain audiences. So, other things to consider for stewardship in this more virtual digital outreach that we're doing these days is asking people to show us what they're doing that they are proud of, that's helping the environment. You can do that through scavenger hunts, video submittals, create your own picture frame for folks to create a photo and action film. Ask them how they're giving back or how to give back, and also how-tos about stewardship. And a great example is how the Garden Hotline through Seattle Tilth offers wreath making classes in the winter. But it's a wreath making class, and what they do is they use that opportunity then to talk about the types of trees and the value of those trees to habitat and how the role they play in stormwater. So try to think creatively, think what would interest you and intrigue you about the topic, as opposed to us just telling people about our topic. And Facebook Live, those are great shows. even if you may get a seemingly small number of folks tuning in your Facebook Live, it's recorded. And I've seen Facebook Live features become much more popular after the fact. We may not have offered that at a time that folks could watch it, and then they find it and they watch it. But people do like to show what they're doing for the environment. So thinking creatively about how we could have them share that would be a great action piece for stewardship. And I just want to say again, we have a lot of assets in the Puget Sound region. We have the Natural Lawn Care site, which also features events and workshops. We have a Spanish language Facebook page. We have Dog Doogity that is in need for a refresh. And that might be a great place to start putting a lot of the cities and nonprofits' pet waste efforts. There's an amazingly energetic woman in West Seattle who started the Poo Gooder program and is out there getting folks to scoop up poop in the neighborhood. And of course, we have the Storm Public Library, which has a lot of these outreach advertising materials. And we have the Don't Trip and Drive site, which still has really great information for folks on how to find a mechanic, how to identify leaks. So the Puget Sound Starts Here campaign, with its over 11 million media impressions and its 15,000 people that came to the website, represents a great opportunity and a way to rethink how we might do digital outreach for stewardship. Based on this awareness campaign and how people interacted with the website, looking for events, looking at the facts, we know that people are interested in a call to action. They're there, they're ready. And the more that we have call to actions, ultimately the lower your cost per click is, because as more people are looking, that helps our costs. And also, taking a look at how we set up the parameters could also shift how the audiences interact with our site and are also looking for stewardship activities in two ways. So one of them is by making a broad advertising campaign to the Puget Sound area. We scoop up everybody. We scoop up both our overburdened communities that we originally had identified, but also folks who are ready or already doing stewardship activities. And that, again, reduces our click-through rate cost, if that's an issue. But it also helps build this sort of excitement or changing this big norm about stewardship activities. The more people know about it, the more people are talking about it, the more people are doing it. And that is how we shift that norm and have shifted that norm in the Puget Sound area.
Mary, we want to leave some time for questions.
Okay, great. This is the last slide, so okay, I'm totally ready for questions.
Great.
Let's give it some thought, and thank you very much. It's a great time to rethink how we do this online.
Thank you so much. This is awesome. I want to open it up to a quick question. We probably have time for one or two questions. So anyone out there, if you'd like to go ahead and type that in the chat, we're ready for you. Well, I am not seeing any, but Mary, this was awesome. And if you wanted to add anything else that I cut you off on, please feel free to do it now.
Thank you, Laura. I need to be cut off. The name of the software, so Google Analytics is a big part of that. And that in itself is its own specialty. And that's really where our media buy firm helped us as well. So they can, by giving them access to our Google Analytics, they could help pull some of that data.
I see a question. What was the name of the software you used to track, and how many pages viewers looked at? Did you just answer? Okay.
Yeah. So, and Google Analytics is its own specialty, really. It'd be great to hire people that have that background.
Great. Thank you, Mary. This was very interesting. If anyone out there has a question or would like to contact her, please find her information in the program. And I know she's happy to work with you and give you all her great guidance.